Welcome to Table Tennis Philosophy. Today we're going to talk about a problem that a lot of players have as they're learning to loop, or they've learned to loop and are finding that in some situations their loops are really good, in other situations it doesn't work nearly as well. And there's a couple things I've known, and I'm not my own style of play is not a huge looping game, but I have taught a number of people to loop successfully, and there's a few things that I would suggest just to jump out when you're learning to loop. One of them is almost inevitably when somebody's struggling, they've got the basic shots down, that telling them to just slow down. Try not to go fast. What happens is they make a really nice loop and then they just try to do it again and do it faster. The emphasis has got to be on spin, not speed, especially when you're learning, and that it causes some frustration as players are really looking for that very, very powerful loop but haven't quite got it yet, and end up with just inconsistent looping shots. Now, the other issue, and this came up, I thank my friend and fellow table tennis player Pierre for this question. He was asking about how to shorten your stroke, which seemed like a puzzling question to me because he has a very nice forehand looping stroke. He's got a nice backhand, and wasn't sure exactly why he wanted to shorten his stroke or what that was all about. So I asked for a little clarification, and turns out what he was really trying to figure out is why is he having trouble looping balls that are in topspin, basically counter looping those shots, particularly on his forehand. And when he can do it so well off of underspin, really handles underspin really, really well. You don't want to push a long ball to his forehand. Those inevitably are looped. They're usually looped strong. And what I said was I couldn't see a problem with his length of the stroke because I have blocked some of those loops back and he recovers really well, and I end up with having to block 2 or 3 if I'm going to win that point. He's got a strong loop that usually gets a point right off the shot, and if not, he recovers well, which seemed to me that doesn't really mean that his stroke was too long, that he's not recovering. His footwork is good, if not excellent, as far as getting into position for these shots. So I don't think the problem was the length of his stroke on his forehand. And his backhand is a little different story. He has more of a driving backhand, but it's very effective. It can be very, very good hitting. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that issue. All right, having said all that, let me tell you a story about a match that I played where I was playing a brand new player. It was quite a while ago, but it made a huge impression on me, and I don't even remember if it was in a tournament or if this was just an open play, but I knew that I had never played this particular player before. And at the time, I was relying heavily on underspin serves, still pushed a lot, didn't play as offensive as I do now, and I'm still not a real offensive player, but the guy I was playing was making unbelievable shots to me. I mean, really strong loops over and over off of my underspin. And nothing that I was doing could keep him from doing it. I assumed I was going to get pretty well crushed in that match. Somewhere along the way in the match, I thought, well, even though I'm not comfortable with it, I'm probably going to get killed even worse. I'm going to give him some topspin serves. Well, what happened was, the first topspin serve I gave him, which I'm sure was not great, he looped off the end of the table. So I said, well, that's better than what I had been seeing, so I gave him another one. He looped that one off the end of the table. The more topspin I gave him, the more he missed. This is somebody that was extremely good at looping off of underspin and nearly clueless as to what to do with topspin. what I found over the years is if you've got somebody that's great at looping off of underspin, there's a chance they may not be as good at looping topspin. So, and it works the other way too. The players that are really good with topspin frequently aren't as great with underspin. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about intermediate level players for the most part, although some of the ones where I've noticed this, it's that they're definitely stronger with one than the other. And in fact, with Pierre, I jokingly said, well, that's why I tend to give him topspin serves, because again, why would I want to give him any underspin? Because that's what he's strong against, and he's not bad against topspin. But all of this kind of came together with the conclusion that a lot of players learn to loop off of underspin and have an upward stroke, and they're trying to spin the ball up, which is basically what you want to do with a loop off of underspin, and don't quite make the connection that when the ball is up and when it's in topspin, because the ball's going to have a different trajectory, it's going to stay up, that you have to go over the top of the ball and you're trying to spin it down. So this is something that comes up, and I'd love some other feedback from other coaches if they're looking at this. Is this something you say? But when I'm looking at players that are working on their looping shots and are sometimes looping them long, I said, were you trying to spin that ball up, or were you trying to spin that ball down? Because depending on what spin was already on it and how, was it above the level of the table? Even if it's got underspin, and if you take the ball that's high above the net, you still have to spin that ball down. It depends a bit on the height of the ball and the spin. Those are the two things you have to look at, and this is just a good way for me to look at it. It's the way I look at it on every shot, is like, am I trying to spin the ball up, or am I trying to spin the ball down? If the ball's already up, regardless of the spin, I don't want to be spinning the ball up. But if you are looping really, really well off of underspin, but not counter looping topspin, this is something for you to think about. So when you're looking at spinning the ball down, that's where you want to get the racket on top of the ball and brush over the top far more. And I think that in itself would probably fix a lot of problems. Now, if you're still struggling with spin in any manner and haven't quite figured out, if you're not looking at the spin, if you're not recognizing the spin, all that's out the window, I guess. But I think for most players that would be watching this video, you've got a pretty good idea what I'm talking about, and hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Hopefully it's helpful to Pierre. I put a lot of thought into some of this, but it's the kind of thing you learn from coaching people and teaching them some of the shots that they're going to need, and see some of the roads they go down that are not successful. So, all right. Well, I've enjoyed talking to you. Happy New Year. It's actually New Year's Eve. I may or may not have a video for tomorrow, but thanks for watching. I really appreciate all the comments that I get, because just like this comment from Pierre prompted this video, I've had several others that have done the same thing, and I appreciate it because it does help me continue to make content that could be interesting to a few of you. Thanks a lot. Bye.